Right now there are a lot of reviews out there telling you and me how bad Anthem is, but that was all before the official launch on the 22nd of February, before the day 1 patch. So I want to tell you my first impressions of the content I got to experience so far. Here we go, guys! I'm Epokk, and on this channel I want to help you decide if a game is for you. I'll upload gameplay footage and share my unbiased impressions on the game, so I can maybe help you avoid a bad purchase. So if you're new here, please consider subscribe. Now a little disclaimer, this isn't my final opinion just yet. I played for about only a good long evening, but I wanted to get this video out there as fast as possible to rectify a few things about the game that were shared before its official release on the 22nd of February. So like many, I was excited when Anthem was announced during E3 2017, especially since it was being developed by Bioware, the creators of great series like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. But in the upcoming weeks before the release, after the beta, a lot of people were very negative about it, complaining about long loading times, bugs and some design decisions. When the game was launched on the 15th of February on Access Premiere, the negative reviews started pouring out of the walls. Quick explanation for those who don't know what Origin Access Premiere is. This game was published by Electronic Arts, who were a little bit harassed for the microtransaction practices, especially with Star Wars Battlefront 2 and a few other games. This leopard hasn't changed spots, because people who pay €5 per month can play the game for 10 hours, and €15 per month you can play the entire game a week earlier. So the reviews started coming out on the 15th of February instead of the 22nd, when the official launch would be. Most of them were bad, and to me at a certain point it really felt like it was becoming popular to hate on the game. But I'm not saying that they aren't correct either. They reviewed the game as it was back then, but they also knew that Bioware was actually working on a patch since the beta, and this was going to be released on the official launch on the 22nd. Now this patch was a very big one, I'll link it in the description below, because actually I was personally also holding off on buying the game, but reading these patch notes actually just made me decide to take a leap of faith and try it for myself, and I'm glad I did. First of all, the major criticism I've read in most reviews are the loading screens, but right now I can't say that there is any problem for me on that front, since I read complaints that there were about 7 minutes of combined loading screens between each mission. Now if this was in fact right now the case, I would tell you for that reason alone to not buy this game, because that's a groundbreaking bug. But right now I'm glad to report that I haven't even run into 2 minutes between missions. There are still quite a few bugs, but nothing groundbreaking. The most frequent one I have is actually the interface bursting through a loading screen, for example, but I'm pretty sure those things will be fixed in the next patch, which might come even sooner than we think. Now, the game itself looks beautiful. I played it on a standard PS4 and I was kinda scared I was gonna lose a lot of FPS or textures, but it runs great. I have no complaints there. The world looks great, it feels alive due to the lush environments and the many critters scrambling off when you pass by. Almost nothing beats flying right above the water and seeing the water being pushed away by your boosters. But the best place for me are partially the caves. At some parts you see the cracks in the walls and the daylight pushes through, and it has just this way of bringing the cave alive. It kind of feels like almost like a painting. Now, the javelins are the major part of the game and they look awesome. The details on them are amazing. You can change their appearance a lot and it's just a joy to play around with. If you go into the multiplayer sections, you can see how each player just tries to make its own javelin as unique as possible, and actually there are so many options that it's actually pretty much possible. Now the combat is actually the most important thing for me for this game, and it feels awesome. Adding the verticality with the boosters brings a whole new dimension to the game. The guns feel powerful and none of them feel overpowered, so you're constantly switching between them to see what works better for you. Now the 4 different classes of javelins feel different enough to think for a moment about which one you'll unlock next. The Ranger is the jack of all trades. He's basically Iron Man with a gun. He's good at every range, even melee, but he doesn't stand out as much as the other three, who each have a more in-depth specialization. Now, for example, I unlocked the Colossus first and loved him immediately for his durability and area effects. You'll find this Javelin, he's just in the middle of all the enemies, burning them with his fire launcher, smacking you around with his shield. But this all, while the Storm, the mage-like Javelin, rains all kinds of elemental damage from above as he hovers above the battlefield, creating possible combos for increased damage and controlling the enemies with his crowd control. And from there, he can perfectly see the Interceptor at work, the last one. This roguelike Javelin, he will just zip around the enemies with surprising agility, dealing strong melee attacks and getting out before they even notice him, so he can do his next blitz attack. So as I said before, each Javelin is a joy to play, and as they all feel different and relevant. And simply put, the combat and the Javelins are awesome. Now let's talk about the storyline next. In short, it's fine. It's not excellent, but it isn't bad either. With great looking cinematics, Bioware actually manages to keep my attention with ease. That combined with a cool looking bad guy and incredible important stakes, I can actually confirm that it works. But none of it feels memorable to me. But I don't want to go too deeper into it because I don't want to spoil it for you actually. So I just want to say the cinematics alone actually make it worth it. Now, there are also a few interesting side characters, as you would expect from the creators of Mass Effect and Dragon Age, and you'll warm up to them, or at least to some of them, and some you probably won't. The one character I'm still deciding if I like him or not is Owen. He's your Cypher. In short, he's kinda your co-pilot at Fort Tarsis, if you will. He just gives you feedback and certain information, but when you come back to Fort Tarsis, you actually have more than a few cinematics with him. Now, I feel like Bioware actually tried to make him a little bit too much like Alistair from the Dragon Age series. He tries to play the funny sidekick, but it feels a little bit too forced for me, personally. Now, there are a few questionable design choices in my opinion. For example, if you find a new weapon, you can't equip it without heading to the Forge, because you can only change your loadout in Fort Tarsis at the Forge, but neither can you even just see what you got from that certain mob or whoever you looted from before heading to the fort. All you know is that you got an item of a certain rarity. You have no idea what its name is, what its stats are, but I find it a weird decision, but apparently it is to prevent people from leaving a dungeon after they got that one item they were grinding. I find it a questionable decision, but I understand the thoughts behind it. As a former World of Warcraft player, I encountered these kind of situations often, so I understand it, but I'm still not sure if I like it. Besides that, I also want to talk about Fort Tarsis. It's something you will see being heavily criticized in reviews. It's the base camp where you pick up your missions, talk to NPCs, the other three factions, learn the lore, change your javelins, loadout and appearance, and so on. Now, some find it lifeless and empty. Now, I can't say I disagree. For some parts of the city actually do feel less populated than the others, but I don't see a problem. You can sprint through the streets if you want to get through it faster, since you're actually probably playing this game to be Iron Man with a gun. But in fact, we are not dealing with a town filled with intrigues and mysteries like you would expect in The Witcher or Skyrim. But talking about Fort Tarsis actually brings me to my biggest negative point about the game. The main issue I have with Anthem is how the missions are set up. Consider each mission as an instance version of the world, and all of them start at your home base, Fort Tarsis. Now, most games you run to your base, you pick up some missions, you run into the world and do some or all of them, and then you go back to the camp and turn them in and you get your new ones. Anthem is totally different. You still pick up the missions and return them in your base camp, but if you want to do one, you select a mission, you create a session. It's up to you if you want to go at it alone or bring friends or find strangers through the matching making system, which works pretty well. But when the session launches, you can do your mission, but once it's over, you will be teleported back to Fort Tarsis. You do not have an option there. This is gonna happen if you want it or not. And this just really kills the flow for me. Each time, it's just very repetitive. You take a quest, you choose it, you go to your launch bay, you pick your javelin, you make your session, you find people or you don't, you do your session, and you get teleported immediately back and you start once again. I prefer to visit personally a base camp as little as often in most games, because I bought the game to explore the world and not to sit in a camp. Now, and the main problem I have with this is because a lot of things that you may dislike in Anthem can be fixed in the future, but this part is here to stay and it sucks in my opinion. Now, these were my own opinions about the game, and I know I ended on a negative note, but don't misunderstand me. So far, I am enjoying myself greatly with the game, mostly because of the great combat the game offers and the different styles the javelins bring me. Alright, thanks for watching guys. If you like this content, please consider subscribe and a like. It would help me out a lot since I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers. Now, these were my impressions, but tell me in the comments if you bought the game and how you're experiencing it right now. See you guys, till next time.